Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories on a Sunday as nature intended. Here we are in the library. We've got the fire on tonight because it is girt chilly. And we've got our selection of candles. And also off camera, we've got a rather nice incense stick burning away, filling the room with pleasing, relaxing aromas. And also over there is Derp's catlit tray, which is filling the room with toxic, noxious aromas. Anyway, he's in the bedroom asleep on the cabinet by the radiator. What are we reading tonight? We are still reading the truly excellent Haunted Places of Scotland. I'm just trying to see, where did we get up to last time? Yes, so we might do a quick recap on one of the stories. What are we drinking tonight? Well, we've got tonight Vale Black Beauty, 4.4% porter, creating connections since 1995. Goodness me, they've only been going 31 years. Vale. Fine dark malts combine to give deep chocolate and coffee notes in this smooth, classic London porter. Independent since 1995 from our home in the Aylesbury Vale, we brew balanced, flavorful beers that bring people together. Whatever your taste, whatever you're up to. Ingredients: water, barley, hops, and wheat. For allergens, including cereals containing glutens. See ingredients in bold. 4.4% Black Beauty. And it's the Vale Brewery. valebrewery.co.uk. Brewed by Vale Brewery and packaged at the Old Dairy, Yattendon, UK. This Vale beer is best served between 11 and 13 degrees Celsius. We had it in the fridge, so it's nice and cold. But yeah, so this is from the Beer 52 subscription. Not quite the full pint, a bit like myself, but there we go. We haven't even read a ghost story yet, and already we have a dead soldier. And Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Indeed. What are we washing it down with? This beautiful stuff, Western Gold from Lidl. It's an American kind of whiskey or spirit with honey, 1% honey. So, but what I do know is it's very, very Moorish. So much so, I might buy another bottle. So here we go. Let's crack on, shall we? Because we's get hungry and we've got TV to watch. So Glamis Manse. In the garden of Glamis Manse is a fine carved Pictish stone with a cross and other carving on one side. Pictish symbols and figures on the... Yeah, again, good start. In the garden of Glamis Manse is a fine carved Pictish stone with a cross and other carving on one side, Pictish symbols and figures on the other. The stone may have been associated with the nearby healing well of St. Fergus, an 8th century holy man, and the megalith is known by some as King Malcolm's Stone. The area around the stone is said to be haunted by a grey figure, the apparition of some unknown person. Not much remains of the old church of St. Fergus, dating from the 12th century or earlier, except the south transept, which was used as the burial vault of the Leon Earls of Strathmore of nearby Glamis Castle. See that entry. A new church replaced this ancient building, and there is a landscaped trail which leads down from the church to the healing well. And that doesn't say anything else apart from that. So just see if I need to turn the... Do I need to turn the light up a bit? I think we could do with it being a little bit higher. That's better. So in the magnificent Rush beer glass, courtesy of Kirsten and Steve, the United States. Cheers, me beers. It's very nice, that. I'm definitely getting the deep chocolate and coffee notes. Not unlike, well, not unlike our other beer tonight, the coffee stout from Aldi. So, right, Glasgow Royal Concert Hall. The Glasgow Royal Concert Hall in the centre of the city replaced St Andrew's Hall, which was burnt down in 1962 and was opened in 1990 as a venue for stage shows, exhibitions, dancing and sport. The building is reputed to be haunted, and manifestations are alleged to include objects being moved by themselves and security staff spotting half-seen apparitions, although nobody is present. Concert hall, conference and exhibition centre and restaurant. Telephone number, box office, and glasgowconcerthalls.com. There we go. Bum, 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 incroyable. Excuse me, dears. Right. Glasgow Royal Infirmary. Glasgow Royal Infirmary, dating from 1792, stands on the site of Glasgow Castle, the bishop's residence, with the fine medieval cathedral nearby. A stone marks the site of the old castle in the grounds. The surgical block is reputedly haunted by a green lady or a grey lady. One story being that she is the spectre of a nurse who fell to her death down a stairwell while trying to prevent a patient from committing suicide. The ghost is said to be helpful and to have been witnessed on numerous occasions, such as ascending a stair and walking down a corridor before vanishing. It is not clear whether this is the same apparition which is claimed to have been seen but cut off at the knee. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything out there. Yeah. Another bogle is said to be known as Archie, another bogle is said to be known as Archie and to be that of an old man seen in Ward 27 and apparently talking to patients who are near death. Been there. A spooky story is that a doctor, while responding to an emergency, was asked the way out by a person. The doctor did not have time to respond properly to the request, but when he got to the emergency, he realized that the patient before him was the same person who had asked him the way out. I think we did read this one at last time, so bum, bum, bum. Oh, there's got a grim story coming up. Is it time for a scotch? No, I think we'll wait until we're on to the next story. So right, Glenmore Mull. Glenmore cuts through the middle of the island of Mull, overlooked by the 3,000-foot mountain Ben More, and this is the main route to Iona and the west of the island, used by pilgrims from medieval times and travellers of later days. The glen, however, is said to be haunted by a headless horseman. The story goes back to events in 1538, which is almost a 20 to 4. The Macleans held the south and east of Mull, also see Loch Buie, and the son and heir of the fifth chief was Ewan of Little Head. Ironic. Ewan had been given an island dwelling in Loch Squabain as, the beer burps, at 11 minutes and 33 seconds. Shocking. Oh, that's better. That's what we were waiting for. It was more of a beer hiccup than a beer burp. That was a proper beer burp. I do apologise if you just tuned in. I've just tuned in to watch Ghost Stories, and instead I'm watching a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head belching live on the internet. Anyway, try again. The ghost story goes back to events in 1538. The Macleans held the south and east of Mull, also see Loch Buie, and the son and heir of the fifth chief was Ewan of the Little Head. Ewan had been given an island dwelling in Loch Squabain as his residence, but his wife, a daughter of MacDougall of Lorne, and being from an important clan, did not feel that the house or marriage settlement was sufficient for her needs. This led to conflict between father and son, and eventually open fighting. Their forces came to battle, but in the subsequent conflict, Ewan was slain, his head being hewn clean off by an axe. His horse rode away down Glenmore. His horse rode away down Glenmore, his upright, decapitated body still in the saddle, before coming to rest some 2 miles away. Ewan's ghost, a headless horseman on a dun horse, sometimes described as wearing a green cloak, is said to be seen riding in Glenmore when one of the Macleans is about to die or suffer from a serious illness. Some accounts have him accompanied by a large black phantom hunting dog, and one account from 1909 has only the dog being seen on the death of Murdo Maclean. The ghostly dog is also said to haunt Loch Buie, having been both heard and seen. The story goes that the apparition of Ewan of the Little Head has been seen 3 times in living memory on Mull, and was also spotted on the island of Cole. Access at all reasonable times. Isn't that weird? He was called Ewan of the Little Head, and he ended up with no head. So when he ended up with a head, but you know what I mean. It made sense to me. Right, I think it's bump time. Cheers, me beers. Oh, just realised I haven't got the tree on. That's better. That's more festive, he said on, what are we today? March the 8th? Festive. Anyway, slange, everybody. Oh, that Western Gold. We're definitely getting more of that. Glen Scotia, Campbelltown. Glen Scotia, a malt whisky distillery founded in 1832 in the Kintyre town of Campbelltown, is said to be haunted by a former owner who despaired of life and drowned himself in Campbelltown Loch. Mysterious footsteps are said to have been heard crossing the maltings floor, even though nobody is apparently present. Note distillery. I think we've already established that. Oh, these are all beautifully short. This is a perfectly paced ghost story book. I've got an itchy nose, so slange, everybody. Oh, cheers, me beers. Oh, Glencoe. Oh, it's going to get a bit dark here now. Glencoe. One of the most picturesque parts of Scotland, Glencoe is the site of the infamous massacre in 1692, executed by government forces under Campbell of Glenlyon. 38 members of the MacDonalds of Glencoe, including their chief, Maclean, were slaughtered by men from the garrison at Fort William, who had been billeted on the MacDonalds. who had been billeted on the McDonald's. One of the sites of the massacre at Inverglen can be visited, as can the Signal Rock, reputedly where the signal to begin the massacre was given. The Glen is reported to be haunted by ghosts of the slaughtered McDonald's. National Trust for Scotland site open all year. Visitor centre, shop and cafe open early January to February, Thursday to Sunday, closed Monday to Wednesday, March to October daily, November to mid-December open Thursday to Sunday, closed Monday to Wednesday, open between Christmas and New Year. Check days. Phone number, website. Oh, what are we up to? 17 minutes. We are nudging towards half time, because when we get to half time, I've got some of those wasabi snacks. So, I've got some fan mail. Cheers, me beers. Oh, Solange. Bum, 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 bum. That's right. OMG. Bear with. I've got to respond to my friends. Glengorm Castle. In a picturesque location with fantastic views, Glengorm Castle is a fabulous castellated mansion of 1860 with many turrets and towers, built for John Forsyth. No, not the actor from the Colbys, whatever it was, Knots Landing. John Forsyth. Wasn't he the voice of Charlie from Charlie's Angels? I think he was. But anyway, Dynasty. I'm sure he was in Dynasty. Anyway, the story goes that Forsyth, thinking that the air had an unusual colour, called the place Glengorm, Blue Glen. But it is said the colour actually came from the smoke from crofters being burned out of their houses. Forsyth was apparently cursed by one of the crofters, told that he would not spend a single night in his new mansion, and Forsyth duly died in a riding accident before the castle was completed. The building is believed to be haunted by a green lady. Cafe and art gallery, self-catering apartments, bed and breakfast available, market garden, telephone number, website glengormcastle.co.uk. Cheers, me beers. Slange. I am quite the fan of that Western Gold now. I really am. Right. Glenn Lee. Wasn't he the bass player from Rush? No. Glenn Lee. Glenn Lee, much enlarged in 1822, was the home of the Miller family in the 18th century, two of whom were eminent judges, but by the end of the 19th century had passed to the Smiths. The house is said to be haunted by a grey lady. The apparition, clad in a grey silk dress, has reportedly been witnessed on several occasions, as have the sounds of its footsteps. Manifestations are mostly said to have taken place in the old part of the house. At least 4 sightings were reported in the 19th century, although during none of these was the observer. At least 4 sightings were reported in the 19th century, although during none of these was the observer apparently aware that, at the time, what they spotted was not a real person. That could be written better. At least 4 sightings were reported in the 19th century, although should be a comma during none of these, comma, was the observer apparently aware that at the time, they put commas in there, what they spotted was not a real person. The story goes that this was the spirit of Lady Ashburton, wife of a Lord Glenlee, although it has not been possible to ascertain whether Lady Ashburton although it's been a long day, folks. The story goes that this was the spirit of a Lady Ashburton, wife of a Lord Glenlee, although it has not been possible to ascertain either which Lady Ashburton or which Lord Glenlee. Lady Ashburton is said to have murdered her husband by poisoning him, reportedly because he was infested with lice. But when the poison... Read it again. Lady Ashburton is said to have murdered her husband by poisoning him, reportedly because he was infested with lice, but was then poisoned herself by their butler so that he could rob her. Incroyable, everybody. Incroyable. Slange. Your good health. Oh, we've got some fan mail. Bear with. Just trying to find, where's my photograph of my scotch gone? Oh, there it is. I found it now. Bear with, folks. I'm just doing the social media element of the show. Let's crack on, shall we? What are we up to? 24 minutes. Right, we're getting closer to half time because I'm looking at these wasabi snacks here and I'm... Oh, the beer burps again. Do apologise. Right. I say that. Do I mean it? I do, actually. That's quite unconscionable behaviour. Glenlee, tall ship, Glasgow. The Glenlee was built in 1896 at Port Glasgow and is The Glenlee was built in 1896 at Port Glasgow and is a 3-masted bark, some 240 feet long, some 240 foot long, some 240 foot long, and constructed from steel. The ship circumnavigated the world 4 times before being bought by the Spanish Navy in 1922, when it was subsequently used as a training vessel. The ship was purchased by the Clyde Maritime Trust, was restored and brought to Glasgow, where she was opened as a visitor attraction. The Glenlee features exhibitions, events, and activities, as well as a nautical souvenir shop. I'm in. Several strange occurrences have been reported on the Glenlee, including half-seen apparitions spotted around the stairs, Staff feeling as if they are being watched, more than I can say, or someone is behind them, and unexplained changes in temperature. A paranormal investigation was undertaken in February 2007 by the Ghost Club website address and was apparently featured in an episode of Ghost Towns. That's on my to-do list this week, is to join the Ghost Club. Might actually do it at half time. I'm up to 26 minutes. Have a think about that. I need to get paid first, though. That's the rub. So Slange. Oh, we've got some fan mail here. Right, what are we up to? 27 minutes, 28 minutes. There we go. Glenlivet. Oh, that's a lovely Scotch, that is. Anyway, Glenlivet. The Battle of Glenlivet was fought on the 3rd of October, 1594, between the government forces of the Earl of Argyll, with about 10,000 men, and the Catholic forces led by the Marquis of Huntly and the Earl of Errol, with a much smaller force, perhaps as few as 2,000 troops. Despite the superior numbers, it was Huntly who won the day by his use of artillery and cavalry, and the government forces were routed. On the anniversary of the battle, the ghost of a headless horseman is reputed to be seen. The phantom of a man called McAllister, who was allegedly beheaded. On the anniversary of the battle, the ghost of a headless horseman is reputed to be seen. The phantom of a man called McAllister, who was allegedly beheaded by cannon fire at the onset of the fighting. No, I think we'll do and more, and then it will be half time. So cheers, me beers. Slange. Glenlucy. The house of Gilbert Campbell in the village was said to be haunted by a poltergeist in 1655, which is 5 minutes to 5. Disturbances included objects being thrown at the house, clothes being shredded, bedclothes being pulled from the beds, all when nobody was apparently present. The activity stopped as suddenly as it has. The activity stopped as suddenly it had started. There should be an extra as in there. Campbell is thought to have been cursed by Alexander Agnew, a tinker, after he had insulted him, and the activity apparently stopped at the time that Agnew was hanged. Doesn't say what it was hanged for. Half time, we are going to have some of our wasabi rice snack mix. A big thank you to friend Faye for putting me on to these. She did get me onto the wasabi snacks from the Chinese supermarket in Easton, but these are from Lidl, so they're local to me. So delicious, folks. Oh, if only you could taste how awesome these are, because they are Good, lovely they are. Oh, splendid. What to report today? Not much, I'm afraid. It's mostly been work. It's exciting work. Well, it is exciting work for me because it involves a lot of thinking, and also prepping for my other webcast that I do on a Sunday night. And then prepping for supper. Supper's ready, which I do declare is a Genesis. It's a Genesis song that I first discovered in this very room 44 years ago. This used to be my bedroom before I inherited the house and turned it into a library. So, in fact, that always used to be covered up, but I uncovered it and decided to put a fire in there, and yeah, lovely. So, oh my goodness me, we are going to run out of wasabi mix here. Oh God, that wasabi mix is awesome. I'm going to have some more actually. Uh-oh. Dead soldier. No, it doesn't count actually. That's the end of that bag of little wasabi mix. What am I going to do? Obviously, I'm going to open another packet. So, these are awesome. I have friend Faye to thank for this. There we go, friend Faye. She turned me on to the mix, that is, in Lidl, and I hadn't thought of buying this. That was shortly after I came out of hospital. In fact, the scars are still fresh on my head there, and then that was us going to Wales. I think it was the year before last. Now that was last year. Oh, goodness me, that's fresh. That wasabi is fresh. Pick up the plate, she said. Why? Pick up the plate. Why? Pick up the plate. Pick up the plate. What does it say on it? Twat. That pretty much sums up our friendship in one, that. So, but no, it has been solid work today. And that's it. I'm looking forward to having, like I say, having some supper tonight. Don't know what I'm going to watch tonight. I still haven't got around to watching Starfleet Academy yet. I think I'll give it another week or so, then I'll start diving in. I do actually fancy watching the last episode from the last series of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, because I've been watching the new series and enjoying it greatly. But I might watch the season ender from last season. So I'll have a think about that. And obviously some Family Guy. So right, shall we crack on? Not Clash of the Titans, not Kraken. Shall we crack on? Glen Mallan. A house here was said to have been haunted by the apparition of a woman lying on a bed with her face turned to the wall. The ghost was apparently witnessed by a girl staying at the house in 1875. The story goes that the woman was the wife of a former owner. He was a drunkard and beat his wife, and she died of her injuries. Grim. We're on to the coffee stout now, by the way. Rich, dark and indulgent, brewed in the UK in partnership with Hall and Woodhouse. Rich, dark and indulgent with Rich, dark and indulgent with subtle coffee aromas, caramel and vanilla notes. Complex, yet perfectly smooth. 5.2%. But I got to say, this is pretty awesome stuff. We're going to have some more beer snacks. What do you do on Sunday night? I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories. Instead, it was a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head eating wasabi rice snacks. Glensander Castle. Glensander Castle, also known as Castile Mernaigue, is one of the most remotely situated castles by road in Scotland, and the ruin stands on a rock at the mouth of a loch on the west side of Loch Linney. The lands belong to the McMasters, but they passed to the Macleans in the 15th century. And it was Ewan Maclean of King Airlock who built the old stronghold in about 1450, which is 10 minutes to 3. The castle is said to have had a green lady, or growgrack. That's it. Cheers, me beers. Oh. For the second time tonight. Oh my goodness me. For the second time tonight, we have a dead soldier, and Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Globe Inn, Dumfries. The Globe Inn has been a hostelry since 1610, and Robert Burns visited the pub often. There is some fine 18th century panelling, and the bedroom he used has been preserved. Other visitors to the Globe include Robert Louis Stevenson, J.M. Barrie, Rudyard Kipling, and Andrew Carnegie. The inn is said to be haunted by the ghost of Helen Park, Anna in Burns' poem, who worked in the establishment in the 18th century and lived in the upstairs room. Helen had a daughter, Elizabeth, by Robert Burns in 1791, and although Helen died soon afterwards, Burns brought up Elizabeth in his own household. Helen's apparition has reputedly been witnessed in the upstairs room, along with unexplained noises, and there was a sighting of the ghost on a staircase in 1996. And there was a sighting of the ghost on a staircase in 1996, clad in an old-fashioned full skirt and rushing down the steps. In one account, the ghost is described as being a white lady and is said to be more active when Burns is being celebrated. Other manifestations are reported to be people feeling as if they are being pulled and lights going on by themselves. Public house, telephone number, website. Delicious. Cheers, me beers. Slange. Golden Lion, Stirling. The Golden Lion was built in 1786, and the hotel, bar and brasserie are located in the heart of the historic burg. The hostelry was visited by Robert Burns. The hotel is said to be haunted. I should bloody well hope so, because the book is called Haunted Places in Scotland. Anyway, hotel, telephone number, website. Gorhambury Tower. Didn't he write Star Trek? No, it was Gene Roddenberry. Gorhambury Tower. There was a tower house at Gorhambury, which was held by the Elliots, the Tower House of Elliots. There was a tower house at Gorhambury, which was held by the Elliots, but nothing survives. The tower is said to have had a brownie or a mischievous spirit called a Shellycoat, because his coat was covered in shells so that he rattled when he moved. I don't make up these stories, folks. I just read them. Cheers, me beers. Oh, lovely. Slange. Oh, lovely. I think we'll have another snack. Grand Tully Castle. An impressive and well-preserved fortress, Grand Tully Castle consists of a Z-plan tower house of the Stuarts, later altered and extended. The castle was visited by the Marquis of Montrose and Bonnie Prince Charlie. After defeat at the Battle of Killiecrankie in 1689, the story goes that a soldier serving in the forces of William and Mary killed an officer in one of the turrets. The blood staining the floor is said to be impossible to wash off. One further tale is that the castle was haunted by a redcap, often an unpleasant bogle that frequented places where violence had been done. The redcap is described as a hunched old man with long gnarled fingernails and seen wearing a red cap, the cap being dipped in human blood. Attacking unwary sleepers, the redcap is said to renew the colour of its cap by dipping in the blood of its victims. The redcap can be driven off by the hilts of a sword or dagger, as long as they are cross-shaped, or by Christian prayer. The redcap that haunts Grand Tully is reputed to be much more benign, however, and to bring luck to the castle. Perhaps a brownie. Actually, I'm just gonna look up something. Actually, bum, 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 bum. That's bizarre. Things that pop into your head there, because that story there was about where are we? Something to do with a Tully. And I kept thinking, Susan Tully, wasn't she an actress who used to be in Grange Hill and indeed EastEnders? And yes, she was. She's the same age as me, which is depressing. Yeah, she's now a very successful television producer. So God bless you, Susan. God bless you. I can't see where the Tully bit was. This happens that I would have read something and then I won't be able to find it afterwards. Never mind, it's not important. I mean, it obviously is, but anyway, that's it for that section. Cheers, me beers. Oh, this Western Gold honey. Now, we're definitely getting another bottle of this. Oh, Grand Tully Castle, that's why. Right. Grange House, Edinburgh. Grange House was a splendid old mansion dating from the 16th century or earlier, but it was completely demolished in 1936. Bonnie Prince Charlie stayed here in 1745, which is a quarter to 6. The old house reputedly had many ghosts, one of whom was a miser. Oh, the beer burps again. The old house reputedly had many ghosts, one of whom was a miser who rolled a phantom barrel of gold. Sorry, the old house reputedly had many ghosts, one of whom was a miser who rolled a phantom barrel of gold through the corridors and passageways. Just seeing where we are here. Grange Muir House. Oh, itchy head. Slash. Oh. Grange Muir House. There was a castle or old house at Grange Muir, which was owned by the Scots in the 16th century. Ely was made a burgh of barony for William Scott of Grange Muir in 1598 to 99. The present house dates from about 1807, but stands on the site of a much older building, which was occupied by the Bruce family, which held the lands in the 18th century. The property later passed to the Douglases, but it was sold in 1931, and the house is now ruinous. Oh, the feeling. After being used as an old person's home and stands in a caravan park. Grange Muir was reputedly haunted by the ghost of a pretty girl called Buff Barefoot, named so because she wore no footwear. When she was a baby, she had been found abandoned with nothing except a bag of gold. She grew into a very attractive lass. Buff had at least 2 admirers, one a son of the family who owned Grange Muir, but her affections appear to have become a bone of contention. The poor girl ended up murdered, although the exact circumstances are not certain, there being more than one version of the story. Her killer was captured while her other suitor committed suicide. There were then reputedly many manifestations at Grange Muir, not least the sound of heavy footfalls in the building, made by unseen bare feet. Her apparition was also observed. The disturbances were apparently so frightening that they caused the old house to be abandoned and the new building was put in its place. The builders were careful enough, however, not to reuse any of the materials from the previous building. The builders were careful enough, however, not to reuse any of the materials from the previous dwelling, just in case her bogle managed to re-establish itself in the new house along with the old materials. There are some accounts, however, that still have the sound of her bare feet being heard in the vicinity of Grange Muir. Chalets, telephone number, and that's it. I think we'll do these research checks for next time. Cheers, me beers. Oh, lovely. Slange. Is it going to be a three bumper tonight? Green No Tower. Built on a small hill in a fine position with an avenue of old trees, Green No Tower is an L-plan tower house rising to 4 stories and with turrets at 3 of the corners. The tower is dated 1581 and still has its iron yet gate. Green No passed by marriage from the Gordons to the Seatons of Touch, who built the tower. It was acquired by the Pringles of Stichel in the 17th century, one of whom, Walter Pringle, was a noted writer and covenator and tube of crisps. It later passed to the Dalrymples, who occupied it until the middle of the 19th century, although it is now ruinous. There are reports that the tower is haunted. Really? Historic Scotland. Access at all reasonable times. Website address. Now we're going to have some more snack. Our Rivercote range offers a delicious selection of snacks, biscuits, oatcakes, and crackers, making the perfect accompaniment for any party, or indeed a ghost story show. So there we go. That's what we're having tonight. Cheers. Greenlaw. Greenlaw is an imposing classical mansion dating from 1741, which is almost 5:45, which rises to 3 stories. The entrance is reached by a wide, imposing staircase, but the mansion is an empty shell after being gutted in a fire in the 1970s. The lands were a property of the Gordons. The mansion is said to have been haunted by the ghost of an old woman clad in grey. Not exactly a grey lady, but pretty close to it. I think we'll have another snack. What are we up to? 56 minutes, yeah. Greenlaw House, Glen Course. Greenlaw House, which incorporated a 17th century laird's house, was remodelled from 1804 into a large barracks and prison that could hold up to 6,000 prisoners from the Napoleonic Wars. The building served as the military prison for Scotland from 1845 to 1888. In 1875, Greenlaw was extended to become the Army Depot for South East Scotland, but the house was completely demolished and the site is occupied by later buildings. The ghost of a young woman said to be Morag Mackintosh is reported to have been seen at a spot called Lover's Leap at a gorge above the River Esk. The story goes that she had been cavorting with one of the French prisoners imprisoned at Greenlaw. Her father had her imprisoned and, while incarcerated, her French lover was murdered. Her father had her imprisoned and, while incarcerated, her French lover was murdered, died, or moved elsewhere. When the girl was released, she found her lover gone and then threw herself into the river at Lover's Loop. Her ghost is also said to have been seen in the Frith Wood, running dishevelled through the trees towards the spot from where she leapt, or just standing weeping. I can see where we're going to end tonight. We're coming up towards the hour mark. And I think we'll end sharply on the hour tonight. So, the last un for tonight. Greshornish House. Set in 10 acres of gardens and wooded grounds in a tranquil spot. Set in 10 acres of gardens and wooded grounds in a tranquil spot, the fine old house dates from the middle of the 18th century, although it was extended about 100 years later and is now a comfortable residence and hotel. The lands were held by the MacLeods, and it was Kenneth MacLeod, a wealthy fellow, who did much to improve the house in the 1840s. The house is reputed to have a haunted room and a ghost. Hotel, telephone number, website address, www.greshornishhouse.com. Greshornish, www.greshornishhouse. Read that again. Hotel, telephone number, www.greshornishhouse.com. So when we pick up again on Wednesday, we should be on to Greyfriars Kirkyard, Edinburgh. Do we have some illustrations to show you? We do. So we have the Glenlee tall ship, Glasgow, page 153, Green Node Tower, and Hales Castle. Oh no, we haven't got to that one yet. So there we go. Get my finger out of the way. That's what she said. And all the next ones are for future ghost stories. Right. That's it for tonight. Cheers. Oh, Slàinte. Oh. Oh, do you know what? That is absolutely Gert lush. I am definitely getting another bottle of that. Right. That's us done for tonight. Fingers crossed, we'll be back with Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Wednesday. And there might be a 2-reg. I'm hoping there's a 2-reg walk involved. So fingers crossed. I'm aiming for a more positive week this week. So let's go for it. Anyway, until the next time, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why? Why not? What else are you going to do on a Sunday night than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head, drink ghost stories, and read alcohol? So, until the next time, as ever, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please don't have nightmares. Good night.